Hello Year 7. Good to see you, hope you're all well at home. This is Mr. Wilson here with some food tests for you in science. A food test is where we take a food and we test to see what nutrients it has in it. Today I'm going to do tests for 3 different nutrients. Starch, which is a type of carbohydrate, glucose, which is also a type of carbohydrate, and fat. First, I'm going to test some energy drink powder. So this might be what you'd use to make Lucozade or Gatorade. I've got 3 test tubes. We use these in a science lab to do reactions in. I'm going to take my glucose powder, my energy drink powder, and I'm going to get some on my spatula and put a bit into each of my 3 test tubes. That's 1 and 2 and 3. I have energy drink in my 3 test tubes. There we go, that's what it looks like. There's a bit of energy drink powder in the bottom of each one. Now I need to test to see if each of the 3 nutrients is in my energy drink. The first one that I'm going to test for is starch. To test for starch, I take something called iodine. This is a brown liquid. I'm going to add it to the energy drink powder. If there is starch in the energy drink powder, the colour will change to blue. In a food test, we know if the nutrient is present because we see it change how it looks. So here we go, I've got some brown iodine in my pipette. I'm going to pour it onto my energy drink powder, and I hope you can see, if I hold this up nice and close, it's brown. It's stayed brown, it hasn't changed colour, so that tells me there's no starch in my energy drink powder. The next test is for fat. To test if there's any fat, I'm going to first add a little bit of water. Then, I'm going to add a little bit of something called ethanol. Once I've got water and ethanol in there, I'm going to put a bung in the top of the tube and shake it up. Shaky, 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 shaky. Now, if it's got fat in it, it will go very, very cloudy. If we look at this, it's gone a little bit cloudy, but I know that that's not got any starch, it's not got any fat in it, so I know that this isn't quite cloudy enough. The last thing I'm going to test my energy drink for is glucose. I'm going to do that by adding blue Benedict solution. I put the blue Benedict solution onto the energy drink powder. I'm going to give it a little shake around. You should see that's nice and blue. Then I'm going to put the test tube into some hot water. Now when it gets hot, if there's any glucose in there, it will turn red. So I'm going to put it in there, stir it around, give it a little bit of time, see if it changes colour. Remember, if it's got glucose in it, it will turn from blue to red. Oh, I think it's starting to change colour now. It was blue. It's looking a bit green. Now it's looking maybe a bit orange. And this is one of my favourite reactions because I'm going to take it out and you'll see it's gone red. It used to look blue, now it looks red. So that tells me that there is glucose in my energy drink powder. I've done the 3 food tests on energy drink powder, now I'm going to do it on some other things. The next thing I'm going to test is rice cakes. I'm going to take some of these out. Here you go. There's a piece of rice cake. That's what it looks like. I'm going to see what nutrients are in my rice cake. First, I've got some in my pestle and mortar, and I'm going to crush them up to make a nice fine powder. Good crushing the rice cake. It's a satisfying sound. I do enjoy this practical science. Okay, I think that's crushed up enough. I'll take my spatula and I'm going to put a little bit into each of 3 test tubes. last few bits, make sure I've got plenty in there. Let's see what's in my rice cakes. First, I take my iodine, a brown liquid, to test for starch. I add my brown liquid to my rice cakes, and we're looking to see if we get a colour change. Let's give this a little bit of a shake around. I hope you can see that where the iodine has touched the rice cake, it's gone dark blue. That's the blue colour we were looking for. That colour change tells me that there must be starch in the rice cake. My next test is to add some water and some ethanol and see if it's got fat in it. There's some water. There's some ethanol. I'm going to put my bung in and give it a good shake up. And let's have a look. All we can see is just rice cake floating in water and ethanol. It's not gone cloudy, which means it doesn't have any fat in the rice cake. Finally, I'm going to test for sugar. I'll take my Benedict solution, which is blue. I'm going to add some drops to the rice cake. There we go, there's my rice cake in the blue Benedict solution. I'm giving it a good shake up. And I'm going to put it in the hot water. And remember, we're looking for a red colour to tell us whether or not it's got glucose in it. I'll give it a few seconds, see if it changes to red. The other one was starting to change colour by now, so I don't think it's going to change. That's getting very, very hot in there, but it's not changing colour. There we go. It's still blue. So that tells me that there is no glucose in my rice cake. So we saw that there's starch in a rice cake, but no fat and no glucose. My last food that I'm going to test with my food tests is this oil. I've got some oil that you might use for cooking with. I'm going to pour a bit into each of 3 test tubes. That's 1. That's 2 and 3 test tubes, all with a bit of oil in. The first thing I'm going to test the oil for is whether or not it's got any starch in it. So I take my iodine, which is a brown liquid. I add it to the oil. Alright, this is a good one. Let's see if it changes to dark blue. I'm giving it a good shaky, shaky, shake. Shaky, shake. Have a look, that's brown. It's still brown. Definitely not going dark blue like our rice cakes did. It's not got any starch in it. Oh, I've got a bit of a muck there. Let's have a look at our next test. Our next test is to see whether or not there's any fat in the oil. So I'm going to add some water. I'm going to add some ethanol. Oh, and straight away I think you can maybe see what's happening. I'm going to get my bung. Yeah, let's use one for my broom. Here's my bung. Shaky, shaky, shake. And look at that. It's just like a glass of milk. It's gone really cloudy and milky with the ethanol and water. That tells me that there's fat in there. If we compare that now to what the one with the energy drink was like, we can see the energy drink is quite clear compared to this one, which is very, very milky. So that tells me there must be fat in my oil. My oil that I cooked with has definitely got fat in it. Here we go, our very last test. I'm still using the oil, testing the oil this time for glucose, using my blue Benedict solution. Let's get some of the Benedict solution into the test tube. My last little shaky shake, bit of a shake, mix it all up. So I've got my oil mixed in with my blue Benedict solution. But let's plonk it into the hot water again, get it nice and hot, and we'll have that little suspenseful pause, see if it turns red. Alright, let's give it some time. The water's hot, I can see the water's starting to boil. So the water's very, very hot. But is our Benedict solution going to turn red and tell us that there's glucose in it? No colour change yet. Still no colour change. Come on, colour, change for us. You're not gonna? I don't think the colour's changing. Look at that. Definitely still blue. So there must be no glucose in the oil. So I've done 3 different food tests on 3 different foods. I started off with my energy drink powder, like Lucozade. And what I found with that energy drink powder is that it contains glucose, but it doesn't contain fat or starch. Then I've got my rice cakes. I'll show you inside the box. There we go, rice cake. We found that the rice cake contains starch, but it doesn't contain glucose and it doesn't contain fat. And finally, the last thing I did was I took some oil like you might cook with. And we found that the oil contains fat, but it doesn't contain glucose and it doesn't contain starch. And that is what we've learned from our 3 food tests. Thank you for watching.